8:37 in New York City, and we're back with a Fox News alert. The USA has shattered its daily record in COVID cases overnight, Brian.
More than 77,000 new cases reported. That's 10,000 more cases than the previous record.
969 deaths were reported, the largest spike in over a month. Let's bring in Kellyanne Conway, the counselor to the president from the White House now. Kellyanne, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And what is it? Let's start first with your reaction to these new coronavirus cases overnight in the numbers.
Well, this is exactly why, Katie and Brian and Steve, that we continue to have the coronavirus task force talking about this dual medical and financial crisis that the country is facing, that this president has been navigating for many months now. I am told in the coronavirus task force, I sit right behind Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci most days when I can be in there, that we are continue to surge supplies, ICU capacity, ventilators. Everybody who's needed a ventilator has gotten a ventilator. We continue to provide testing and the materials that these governors need in these hotspot surges. We did see an increase in about June 10th to 16th. It may be a lagging indicator from some of the Memorial Day activities when a lot of Americans just said, look, I've been in lockdown for many months. First official weekend of summer, I'm going to get out there. But I think the most important thing that people can do is what Admiral Giroir, our testing czar, and the Assistant Secretary for Health for the whole nation said as recently as yesterday, which is close the indoor bars and wear a mask. Get our schools reopened as well. Don't let these kids suffer because everything is spiking up. Also, we had great news this week. As this president has led the effort to the most rapid and deepest monetary investment in vaccines and therapeutics on this issue, really in our nation's history, Dr. Fauci earlier this week said, this is great news that we had an initial test of 45 volunteers who had coronavirus, and they built up those antibodies in their bloodstream. On July 27th, next week, we're going to have the test of 30,000 individuals, and hopefully this will be another major leap forward to getting the type of vaccines that we all know will help to mitigate this damage.
Well, absolutely. All of our fingers are crossed that it comes sooner than later. And Kellyanne, without a doubt, the administration is doing a lot. The federal government is completely mobilized. And yet, how do you explain why the president's numbers on polling with approval and disapproval are underwater when it comes to COVID? I mean, you look at the data from public and private polling, and Joe Biden actually beats the president on COVID response. And Joe Biden's in the basement not doing anything.
Well, that has benefited Joe Biden. The less Joe Biden is better for Joe Biden. I would note that in other polling, Joe Biden's negatives have increased because we've seen a little bit more of him. I thought he was running for president of the United States, but apparently he's running for governor of Pennsylvania, because with one exception, he's not left Delaware or Pennsylvania in many, many months. And that is not the way somebody should be running for president of all 50 states. He should go out there, meet people, engage with them, but it does benefit him. Now, I'm going to answer your question about why the president's numbers may be a little softer on the handling of coronavirus. My own view, which is different than some people here, is three things. One, the president's numbers were much higher when he was out there briefing everybody on a day-by-day basis about the coronavirus, just giving people the information. They were out there every day when we had at some point 2,500 deaths in one day at the highest level, and I guess it was April or so, March and April. And the president and the task force were there most days giving the information. I think the president should be doing that. I've got some colleagues behind me who
Why'd
think
he stop?
Well, I think some people are encouraging him to stop. He's got a task force. He has doctors and economists, and of course the vice president is leading the task force. But people want information, and this country followed instructions. They stayed inside and socially distanced and became the teachers to their helping to teach their kids.
I think you're absolutely right about.
I think he should be out there talking about it,
because I think that would make it appear that the president was fully engaged on it, because every night at 5 o'clock in the 5 o'clock hour he would come out and he would brief the nation on the very latest.
To wild ratings, people were tuning in, and it doesn't have to be 2 hours, but it should not be 0 minutes either. And I think that the president at the podium saying, I want to give you the facts and the figures as to what we've been able to do. I mean, millions of pieces of PPE and ventilators and vaccine development and the like. But also, I want to say that this president speaks regularly with the governors who are calling him about these hot spots, about these surges, working very closely with them. But that's not everywhere, and we have to make very clear. And I think the other reason the president's numbers are negative is because he can never get a fair shake by the same people doing the polling. Look, the Quinnipiac poll has 24% Republican. The Wall Street Journal poll, 26% Republican. The ABC News Washington Post poll, 24% Republican. Folks, that is ridiculous to think that likely voters are only going to be 24% Republican. So if you have a 10% difference, plus 10 Democrat in your sample, and you're asking ballot test or approval ratings between Biden and Trump, you're going to get a very skewed result. So I would caution, I would urge all these outlets that had the polling all wrong in 2016 to sharpen up, to look at your science and your art, because none of them got fired, by the way. They also have their jobs, curiously. It's not really a meritocracy. It doesn't run. I mean, if that was corporate America, the C-suite would have been cleaned out, the shareholders would have revolted, and the consumers would look elsewhere for products and services. But that's fine. They're all still there. But their polling is still a hot mess. I would note, though, that the president's he's at 54% in some of those polls that only have a 24% Republican sample. He's at 54% in his handling the economy. And I think if he gets out there and talks about the medical and financial crises, then I think it will be much better. And he's got Dr. Fauci there. He's got Dr. Birx, Dr. Redfield. Our doctors are out there, our economists out there. But also look at what's happening with the economy that this president is bullishly leading for the country. We just have so much more job production. Yesterday, the dereg event was incredible because this president has said for years now his Tax Cut and Job Act created a great deal of wealth for middle-class Americans, got that business tax rate from 35% down to 21%. But the president has said he thinks his dereg agenda is just as important. And for some business owners, property owners, public school parents, small businesses, it's even more important. We said in the campaign last time, 2 regulations out for every new one in. It's 8 to 1 now.
Wow.
And it's billions and billions of dollars in savings.
I think you know this, though. Everything pales in comparison to the importance of the pandemic because it affects everybody's life, business owner, families, sports, whatever. I don't need to tell you that. I watched Ed Rollins yesterday on Lou Dobbs because I don't just watch Fox News. Sometimes I watch Fox Business. And he knows there's been a change with Brad Parscale moving out. And one of the things that he brought up is you got to bring Kellyanne back. Would you ever go back and try to reproduce what you did in 2016 and try to do the same thing in 2020?
Well, thank you for that. Kellyanne never went away, actually. Here I am, and I am here at the White House where the president wants me to be. And he and I have had those conversations many times. I want to be where my best and highest use is for the president. And I still believe that a president running for re-election, those fortunes rise and fall mostly on what is done where he is in this building. But he knows how involved I am. I've been by his side for 4 straight years trying to be a very small person pushing up the boulder up the hill of the Trump administration agenda. And I did see earlier, and I thank you for that, I saw your segment, Steve, with Corey Lewandowski, another campaign manager, another close confidant of the president still, and continuing. And when you said it was the first woman to be campaign manager successfully, I was also the only woman in the debate prep most of the time, and I would expect that even if I have to take vacation time, I will be there as well, because that's really key. That's going to be must-see TV. But I think that I'm the longest-serving person here, certainly longest-serving female here, outlasted a lot of the guys, who works in the intersection between policy and communications. And Donald Trump as president has had an impact on real people's lives. You're going to see that at our convention, and you're going to hear that in these debates. Joe Biden simply can't compete in his 47 years as the Loch Ness Monster in the D.C. swamp with the 4 years of the Trump record. It's just his impact on people's lives, and we will have the people there to talk about it. And this president, who is a masterful, peerless, fearless debater. You saw him take on Hillary Clinton. They had the Access Hollywood tape 2 days later. We were there in St. Louis, and he cleaned her clock. He never took her she never took him seriously. And then in that final debate, October 19th, 2016, President Trump did something that no Republican or pro-life conservative candidate I had worked with for decades had ever done, which is this Manhattan male billionaire who, for most of his non-politician, for most of his adult life, had been pro-choice, turned to Hillary Clinton and said, "You're the extremist on abortion. You would rip that baby out of its mother's womb with an hour to go," and the country reflectively said, "Ooh," and it really made such a difference. That plus his Supreme Court list, his selection of Vice President Pence, and those were just promises. Now he's delivered on that agenda. I read here the Democrats are going to reduce their convention to 300 people. That is a small second wedding where I come from, folks. That is not a political convention.
That's funny.
So here I am, never went away.
Gotcha.
All right.
Never went away and didn't necessarily get the credit.
And I think Stepien's going to do. I think
for being the first female.
You know what? I get it where it matters. I have a great connection to the base and the grassroots. I have my own personal relationship with the president. Lots of people are trying to throw logs my way. It reflects poorly on them, not on me. And what I want to say to you is, Brad Parscale did a great job with digital. He's a digital genius. I'm glad he'll stay on and do that. I also think under Brad's stewardship, this campaign raised a ton of money along with the RNC. They have a huge digital infrastructure, 2 million or so volunteers, I'm told, a big campaign staff. Look, 2016, we were understaffed, under-resourced, but we were also underestimated and underdog. I think this time the president is also underestimated and underdog. I would just like to see the 2020 campaign have the same swagger and hunger and joy on the job that we had in 2016. So I think that will have Trump's imprimatur on it. Last thing I'll say to you is, thing I'll say to you is that I see a lot of the same trends of 2016. Some things are different, but I see Joe Biden as sort of Hillary in that way, too, that he's going to try to run an experience. He's going to have all the king's horses, all the king's men. And President Trump, in being underestimated, this time will be able to say, here is the results I have delivered. And people will hear for the first time some of the things that we talk about every day. People who don't pay attention to politics, who would never watch a rally, will absolutely tune in to the convention, to the debates, to learn to see the contrast.
All right. Let's see if they do restart the President's Daily Coronavirus Task Force meeting. That was great, where the president comes out. Kellyanne, thank you.